Welcome back. Eric Heady, Everyday Hustle. I hope you guys enjoyed episode 11 with Greg Rankin from securitysalestraining.com. That one was a super long episode, but I literally enjoyed every single minute of it. Dude's just a sweetheart of a man. Definitely going to have him on again in the future and working to make connections with the gentleman he referred at the end of the episode that he thinks would be a great interview for Everyday Hustle. And I got to tell you, that's 3 interviews back to back to back with no solo episodes in there. And it's not that I don't like doing the solo episodes because I do love hearing myself talk. I am finding so much more value, at least for myself. And again, I look at everything as, myself as the lens that I look through as a consumer. So if I was a consumer of my own goods, I find so much more entertainment and value and good little tidbits and stories and everything in between, when I'm interviewing somebody else. Not to say that I don't bring any of that to the table. I just think that it flourishes when I've got somebody else that I'm talking to, which is funny because I'm telling you that as I monologue all by myself in my office on a Sunday night. But in this episode 12, we have Carson V. Heady, who is a up and up high-level manager at Microsoft. He is a self-published author. Well, that's not true. I learned in this episode he was published the old school way for his first book, but then went on to publish 3 more books on his own through Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And just fascinating guy. I worked with Carson in a short-lived startup endeavor called Edge. Well, depending on who you ask, it was Edge Media or Edge Management. And for the sake of avoiding any defamation lawsuits, I'll just say it wasn't great, but it shaped me as a professional, as a human being. It taught me a lot. And it introduced me to guys like Carson, who, even after 8 or 9 years, we were able to just pick right up right where we left off, and shame on us for not staying in touch more throughout. But phenomenal guy. He talks a lot about, so I'm going to take probably the most impressive thing, and spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you right now, the most impressive thing that he shared in that entire interview is in all of Microsoft, giant conglomerate, massive Microsoft. He has the top ranked social selling index activity ranking of anybody. That's so fucking impressive. It hurts my head. I'd like to think that I'm damn good at personal branding and being relevant and present on professional social media and not professional social media. But goddamn, does this guy take the cake? So I just gave away like the coolest fact of the entire interview. But goddamn, it made me so impressed and so giddy to hear that. But he goes on, he shares a lot of the tips and tricks that he does to be that relevant in the social space. He gives an amazing breakdown of how he manages his time, how he approaches every interaction all the way to the end user, and just a cool fucking guy. We didn't really touch on it in the interview, but he's also low-key obsessed with James Bond. If I remember right, he had a vanity plate on his car when we worked together that said 007. So there's a brief joke where I said he should have been episode 7 and I would have called it episode 007. That's why. But yeah, cool fucking guy. Great interview. We had a small window to record it cause he's a busy motherfucker. Normally these interviews kind of perk up with us already mid conversation, and then we kind of back our way into introductions. This one, because we were so short on time, I was freaking out, making sure everything was up and running, and we were already a few minutes late, and so there's not a lot of chit chat. We just right in. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, just fair warning, the last 12 minutes or so, my camera stopped recording for some reason, even though both hands were off of the mouse and keyboard. So his video kept working. The audio kept working. I'm a nerd with, double and triple redundant everything. So I had like 3 different copies of the audio stream all recording, but my camera stopped in the most unflattering position possible. So the last 12 minutes or so, my frame is stuck and he's just bebopping around in the picture, still just spitting hot fire and giving great info. So on YouTube, I apologize for the last 12 minutes. It ain't pretty if you're just looking at me. And if you're looking at Carson, that's where you should look. Side note, if anyone has like a Canon EOS M50 just laying around, they don't want to, use anymore, send it to Everyday Hustle, care of Eric Heady. Yeah, it would also, bring me up to the 4K game. So I'm serious. I'm not, panhandling here. I'm not begging. I promise. That was a joke. It's not. You can send it to P.O. Box. I'm kidding. So we've got a couple more interviews lined up. I do have a plethora of solo episode ideas that I'm kicking around, and when time permits, I will be recording those and putting those up. And as we get closer to that 20 to 25 episode range, I'll start putting these out on a regular cadence. So if you're listening, I'm all ears as far as what day of the week and what time of day you think every episode of Everyday Hustle should drop. I'm all ears. I'd love to hear it. Right now, I'm just so fucking giddy to get an episode done. I push it out as soon as it's done. But I'd like to have a few of these kind of in the hopper that are scheduled at a certain time, so that you guys know that every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Everyday Hustle is going to hit. But seriously, if you have any thoughts or ideas on what a good day of the week would be for you, the 40 of you that are listening, I'm all ears. So I cannot thank you guys enough for coming back 12 times in a row. This is a phenomenal episode. I cannot say enough. And with that, without further ado, my friend, Carson Heady. Mm-hmm. 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 QuickTime, screen recording. All right, record entire screen. This one. Are we recording? Fuck yeah, we are. All right. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I've left off.
I'm telling you. So first off, thank you so much for making time. It's been what, 9 years, 8 years?
Something like that. It's been the better part of a decade. Oof. It's crazy.
Dude, here's what's crazy, and why you were one of the first people I reached out to is we were both at very similar points in our career, and we will leave that whole story untouched for the sake of any defamation lawsuits. But you went a completely different direction and just fucking skyrocketed. Now, when we met, you had already written a book. And since then you've written 3 more.
Yes, that's correct. I don't know how many of them have actually been read, but they have been written.
Well, so I just interviewed a guy a couple nights ago, a guy named Greg Rankin, and his LinkedIn is what I called a dick on the table LinkedIn page. And then I looked at yours this morning and I was like, no, this is a dick on the table. So internet.
So this is a measuring contest here.
You're winning. So
I like the sound of that.
So here's
hashtag
here's
Charlie
what
Sheen style.
Yeah, amen. Here's what your LinkedIn says: #1 Amazon bestseller in the sales category with leadership books Birth of a Salesman, The Salesman Against the World, A Salesman Forever, and Salesman on Fire, chronicling job search, interviewing, prospecting, fact-finding, pitching, closing, overcoming objections, professionalism. How about that one? And
I didn't learn that until my later years, by the way.
But then it goes on. Featured in B2B Sales Mentors, 20 stories from 20 top 1% sales professionals. You've been interviewed by one of my heroes, Jeffrey Gittimore. But it goes, yes. I mean, Selling from the Heart, Sales Hackers, Sales Babble, Sales Gravy, Sales Tuners. I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. So...
not him. I haven't been interviewed by him yet. But I'm hoping after he sees that I talked to Eric Heady, I'll be on his list.
Well, and that's just I'm like Jesus Christ, you carved an hour out of your day for me, and I'm not Jeffrey Gittimore, man.
Hell yeah, man. We're old friends. Once you go through the trenches that we went through together, I mean, you come to a point together where you're like, surely #1, there's blue skies ahead, but #2. You say, hey, let's make time. I put you at the top of the list for the sessions. So I appreciate the opportunity to catch up and that you even thought to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me and tell the world. So when we parted ways in what was that, 2011, 2012?
12. Yeah, it's 12.
So you went over to T-Mobile and then you ended up at Microsoft. Talk about that. How did that even look?
Yeah, I mean, it was all people. It was all just relationships that I had. It's crazy because I talk about this sometimes. I mean, I actually wound up at Edge with you because of the book that I had written. That was the only reason my resume got noticed. I had no retail experience. I had no wireless background. And so that begat some relationships that it wound up me being recruited by T-Mobile. And ironically, another major company at the time, which it was a challenging decision that I made, but I went to T-Mobile for a bit and then wound up meeting some folks that recruited me into Microsoft, where I've been for 6.5 years now.
That's crazy.
It was interesting. Very similar to kind of the same thing we did with the Verizon days, as far as coming into a market that needed a lot of attention and actually applied a lot of the same principles that we did successfully and had some success there. It was a good, fun run. And like I said, I made some great connections there that led me to Microsoft.
Yeah. So moving from telecom to software, easy transition, hard transition, better transition. What did it look like?
It's interesting. I mean, I just consider myself a sales guy. And so, I know that we've both had similar trajectories in that we've moved through different industry verticals, and a variety. We have a very robust partner ecosystem at Microsoft. And I know that's, you work with a lot of dealers and agents and things of that stature. So I think it's a people business. And so yes, I mean, software is often the end result, or public cloud, or just different productivity tools. But it's less about that than it is about the people and figuring out, okay, where are their gaps? Where can some of these tools make a difference? And frankly, because there's so many partners that create IP that just sits on our stack, that's a lot of the relationships for me, is making sure that I understand that and that I'm able to broker introductions. Frankly, I mean, I consider myself more of an orchestrator and a broker, and just I make sure that everything's working, rather than I'm not an overly technical guy. So the transition was interesting. I will say I've never been challenged more than I've been challenged at this company, which is a good thing, because it's forced me to up my game substantially. And I mean, it's ironic that I had the audacity to write anything about sales 10 years ago, because I knew squat compared to what I know now. And I'm sure you feel the same way about yourself. I mean, it's one of those things where as you go through different components of your career and you make new relationships, have different mentors, you certainly learn a lot of very valuable new muscles to flex.
Absolutely. So what I found interesting there most is you're not a technical guy, and you were so in my world I always call it the switchboard operator, I'm just making connections, and I said on an earlier episode, if I'm not the guy that has the solution, I know the guy that has the solution, and I'm just, patching left and right and making everything work. Right.
There's a ton of value to that. And if you're responsive and you do it well and you're diligent and you find ways to not only forge new relationships, but stay top of mind with your existing ones,
right,
you can be extremely successful in that. I mean, that's a value in and of itself. And I mean, there's a lot of clients that I've had over the years that have said, I'll pay more with you, whatever that product is, because I know that you'll reply every time I reach out, because I know you're responsive, because I know you'll see this through, and because you're my advocate, because you evangelize for my business inside of yours. I mean, here's the thing. It's very important for me to understand the different resources that any company I work for has at its disposal, because I need to be an advocate for the clients that I support to figure out, okay, how do I help them navigate these waters?
Right.
And the bigger the company, Microsoft's a large company. There's a lot of those types of resources and programs. Understanding them and helping a client navigate those waters is a real value that you can bring to them.
Absolutely. So it's funny because, before we started recording, your background was Dunder Mifflin, and it made me think of that episode where Jim and Dwight are in front of the prospect, and the guy went to a different company because it was cheaper, and Dwight picks up the cell phone and calls and gets put on hold by the other company's customer service, and then picks up the phone and Pam answers the phone right away. But no, there is something to be said about, because even in my own consumer buying, I'll pay more for a better experience than just to save a buck,
Without a doubt. And I think more and more, and let's compare and contrast. I mean, obviously 6 months ago, the landscape of working with clients is very different than it is today. I also currently work with healthcare clients. So, I mean, that those relationships have changed dramatically just over the last couple of months. Right. But being available, being resourceful, and frankly, just being there and trying to add value, whatever that might look like, that's the relationship these days. It's so far removed from a lot of the experience that I've had in the past, which was either B2C or B2B, that was very transactional, very one call close. I enjoy the fact that I get to work in an environment now that sometimes has 2-year sales cycles. I mean, right. It's, you're looking at a full transformation of an organization, but you're right. I mean, even day to day from a consumer standpoint, it's that personal touch that makes all the difference in the world. I can say that from, banks that I've worked with, even to the kid that comes and tries to sell me cookies. If you have if you do something unique to stand out and you're personable, and you genuinely seem like you care, that's going to make me a lot more likely to make a purchase and pursue a relationship there.
100%. So here's, I was just looking at your LinkedIn, and a connection I didn't realize we had is, we both started our careers in the grocery industry. So I started at Hy-Vee, bagging groceries and pushing carts, and it looks like you kind of bebopped all around Schnucks.
Yes. Yeah. No, I spent the better part of six plus years in the grocery business. And I mean, you look back and, those were the days where I had relatively no responsibilities. And, you make a lot of friends, and, you remember the moments like when the power went out and you were, having a snowball fight in the produce section with the other kids that you worked with. And like you said, pushing carts, especially when it was like 100 degrees outside. And there's such a camaraderie. And while, I don't know how many of my future selling skills and relationship skills I learned there, you definitely learned, the basics of get to work on time and working with a team and being accountable. Yeah. And so there was a lot of key fundamentals and foundations built out of the grocery business.
I was going to say my core values of customer experience, customer service, and just to your point, just the fundamentals of show up, be dressed properly, no ma'am, no sir, that all stemmed from the grocery industry. It's also where I learned how to tie a tie.
I still need help sometimes, but no, you're right. I mean, just always that servant leadership that I think needs to be more prevalent nowadays is certainly ingrained in a lot of folks in the grocery business, because I mean, you're taught to get the consent from a customer. Hey, do you want paper? Do you want plastic? Would you like me to carry this out for you? How do you want to be served? And I mean, that's a philosophy that we can all take to heart.
100%. It's funny. We both started at the same place. We kind of intersected together, and then I went off into a couple different verticals. You went into software, but to your point, and a few other episodes we've done, it doesn't matter what the widget is. It's actually Greg Rankin, who I interviewed last. He said it's the plan, it's the process, and that's truly what it is. I mean, I could be selling pig shit, and it's the plan, the process. It's and inevitably that's what excites me as a salesperson.
It's funny you say that, because that would probably, if you sold pig shit, you'd probably need that for if they ever made another Back to the Future film,
right?
Because they always have somebody run into the manure truck.
Yeah, Biff every time.
But I digress. I agree. It's all about process, but it's also about people. And if you focus on those things, the results will come. I've always abided by that philosophy, that it's far less about the results and, hey, Eric, sell more of this, sell more of that. That's irrelevant. It's right. Let's figure out what the right process is to make sure, number one, we're taking care of the people that we work with and work for, and that we work, toward. The other thing too is when you work for an organization, you are, whether you like it or not, I mean, you've got a contract with them. You're an evangelist of that brand. And so you've got to make sure that the customer, the company, and yourself are at the heart of everything that you're doing.
Yep.
So I would agree. I mean, I think process is paramount, and process is going to change too. I mean, that's the thing. You're going to have to evolve your process based on, trends in the market, based on needs of the consumer. But the other side of that is, people, and putting people at the heart of everything that you're doing. And if I don't care if you're a manager, you're a seller, wherever you are in an organization, it's all about putting the people at the forefront of what you're trying to achieve and accomplish.
Yeah. So there's two things that I admire about you. And I've never really voiced it to you, but you've been a swift kick in the ass for me on multiple occasions over the last better part of a decade, in two forms. One, you made the time to not write one, not write two, but write 4 books, and every time I go on LinkedIn, you're sharing an article, you're posting content. You are a fucking content machine. And so every time that I go, man, I need to do this, but I just don't have the time. And then I go look at my LinkedIn app and I'm like, son of a bitch, he is on top of it. So I guess my question is how do you format your time? How do you structure your day so that you're not only just crushing it at Microsoft, but you're an author and you're driving social media. In fact, I think one of the things I saw about you on here was that you have a group on LinkedIn. What did I see this? 1,200 members, maintained a Twitter account with 300,000 followers, 5th highest in St. Louis, and 19,000 LinkedIn followers. How the fuck?
Yeah, sometimes not that effectively. I mean, especially ask my wife, and I mean, she'll tell you how effectively I really manage my day. But, it's number one, thank God there's some productivity tools now where I can sit at 6 a.m. or whatever it is and time out my post for the day.
Right.
It's really fundamental philosophy. I actually had a gentleman who told me this years ago. He's actually, it's funny. I had a couple of little anecdotes that I wanted to share. And one was this guy told me a few years back, stay top of mind. Find ways with social media to stay top of mind. And some would probably say I overshare. And that's okay. I think oversharing is better than undersharing. It's 100%. Impossible to find a balance there. But the other piece that I would mention to that is that if you stay when I run into folks, they always say the same thing. Like, my God, you're always on LinkedIn, you're always on Twitter, you're always posting stuff. I sit there maybe at 6 a.m. and I just time out my posts for the day. It takes me 10, 15 minutes. I read articles. I use different productivity tools that will feed that stuff to me, and then I share it out throughout the day. And it's designed to start conversations. That's really what it's all about. Start
100%.
conversations and just be the value there. As far as like writing the books, that's a tricky one, because I actually wrote my last one over the last year. And I honestly never even intended to write another one. It was just one of those things that because I had some unique inspiration and, granted, I finished it and edited it and everything in the last couple of months where I had no commute time, no travel.
Right.
So that made things a little simpler. I wrote my first book after I got laid off. So, it's sometimes God gives you some more time to work on things, but I will tell you, some days, Eric, it was I'd write a page.
Right.
Some days it was I'd write 2 pages. Some days I'd go crazy and write 5 to 10, and eventually you've got to work, and I think eventually you've got a work of something that you can mold, and I think that's where even if it takes you a year, when you think about it, in 365 days, there's a fair amount of pages that you can at least write. And my advice is just create the content. I mean, especially nowadays when you can create a video and put it out there and see what happens. And again, think about, how do I start a conversation? How do I stay at the pulse of what's going on? And then the other thing I wanted to say, you made a great point earlier. The widget's not important.
Right.
And especially when you're thinking about your career. I had another buddy of mine that told me years ago, he's like, follow the zeros. Fundamentally, like, find the things that have the most zeros behind them. So, fortunately, I went to a place where, organizations
you found a lot
that are
of zeros.
Transforming in the public cloud, there's a lot of zeros. But I think fundamentally what that means is stay at the pulse of what's going on, follow the trends, and look at where there is value. And I mean, like right now is a prime example of that. I mean, again, I work in public cloud and I work in the healthcare organizations. So there's a unique, differentiated need. And I think as long as you keep your ear to what's going on, you can add value in that regard. So I think about that as I look to what kind of content should I be sharing? What conversations should I be having and starting? And that is very much at the heart of my philosophy when it comes to social media and social selling.
Good Lord. So if I'm listening to this and I say, I want to be like Carson Heady and I want to have coffee.
Aim higher.
Okay. I want to be like Eric Heady. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
If I want to, take a Sunday and plan out all my posts, or I want to get up every morning and read, LinkedIn Pulse and set up some stuff to share. What tools are you using? Are you able to share any of that information with the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. First off, schedule it and be non-negotiable about it. You have to actually follow through and execute. I mean, and that's harks back to what we were just talking about process.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the result that you're wanting unless there's a process in place and you're consistent in its execution, period. So I would schedule the time that you want to be doing that. I mean, me personally, I can't sleep anyway because I wake up at like 4:35.
Yep.
One of my kids comes into the room and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I'm off to the races. And I try to get on the treadmill and this and that. But I'll tell you, like, be diligent about going through and using some of these tools, and full disclosure. I mean, so obviously Microsoft owns LinkedIn. Some of the tools are LinkedIn related. I use LinkedIn Elevate. I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
Yep.
There's a really solid choice of feeds that goes through that. I've used tools like Crowdfire. Crowdfire does a good job of going through like who I'm following on Twitter or Instagram, and it will feed you kind of a culmination of some of the different posts that are being shared by people that you follow. So, yep. Some of the people I follow are in tech, some are in sales, some are in leadership, thought leadership. So it will give me a digest of some of those. And those are some of the articles that I read and peruse and share out. And then a lot of others, like, frankly, my LinkedIn feed, or looking at like Success Magazine or Fast Company, or some of the others that have like a work-life segment, Harvard Business Review, Inc. Yeah. I mean, a lot of these have already set ones, and then I set up email alerts for a lot of things that I have interest in as well, like my own company, like different specific topics. So if you're getting kind of a digest every day, I mean, that can kind of get you started in looking at it. And don't get me wrong, I glance at these things throughout the day as well. But you've got to make sure that you relegate everything to its own time. It's so easy to get caught up in the wormhole of, man, I checked my email and good Lord, now I've wasted an hour just replying to these endless email threads when I'm not even the authority. Like get as many people in the boat in there with you and let other people help you as they can and see fit, but be diligent in practicing your process. And there's so many different tools that are out there to achieve what I think I've been able to achieve fundamentally. And I'm still learning too. I think the other thing too is be cognizant that you may want to adapt your own process. I'm constantly learning new things about how people are leveraging some of these tools, new tools to use. So I think be open to modifying your process. Don't be rigid.
Yeah. What's crazy is a lot of words coming, Carson. I've been doing this is episode 12, and this is interview number 5. And
thank God it wasn't 13. I'm very superstitious. I would have said cancel the whole thing.
Actually, in hindsight, I should have had you be episode 7, and I would have listed it as episode 007 for your love for James Bond.
Go. Love that.
But as I've been doing these and I've been talking to people, as I'm having these conversations, I'm doing all this self-reflection on the fly. And as you were talking about that and having that rigid schedule and process, I'm going, oh man, like I'm thinking, back in 2016, 2017, even 2018, I was doing zero-based scheduling. So every minute of every day was accounted for. And I did exactly what you were just talking about. I knew on this day, at this time, I had 20 minutes that I was going to do social media. And not just, okay, so, and it was 20 minutes of mindless scrolling. And then later in the day, it was, okay, now you're going to do 30 minutes of effective social media on LinkedIn or on your Twitter or whatever. And it was that way with my gym regimen. It was that way with meals. I even had in there, eat a snack right now, and told myself what snack I was going to have. And wouldn't you know it, that was some of my most productive years. It was the best shape I was ever in. And my social media following was its strongest. And so I'm sitting here going, why did that stop? Like, why did I take the complacency and the comfort of taking your foot off the gas? And maybe part of it was having a kid. I don't know. But man, like you literally just got that fire in me to be like, okay, we're coming into the weekend. I'm going to take this weekend. I'm going to zero base my schedule out for next week because and I'm doing a whole lot of talking when I'm supposed to be interviewing you, but I'll tell you, one of my biggest struggles in
conversation,
100%,
dialogue,
but in my corporate world, my 9 to 5 right now, my latest complaint is that I'm letting everyone else dictate my time. And I'm getting pulled into meetings and I'm sitting in things that are not pertinent to me, and it's taking away from my productivity. And all I'm doing is running around putting fires out when I should be looking at the big picture of my channel and my company. And so zero-based scheduling would alleviate that as well. So thank you. That's absolutely my biggest takeaway from that. Also, all the tools you use to push out. What is LinkedIn Elevate?
Yeah, so LinkedIn Elevate is a platform that is it's kind of an offshoot of the Sales Navigator, but it's in essence it does what a lot of tools do, but it works specifically for your own company. So it's part of a LinkedIn license, but you can actually go through and you'll see different posts that people in your company are sharing. So mine actually includes people in Microsoft, people that are Microsoft partners, and that are affiliates, and then different. I can go through and list it by vertical. I could go through by discipline. So I look for apps and infrastructure, data and artificial intelligence, whatever I want to look for, and then it's going to show me a feed. So it's similar to a lot of other tools in that regard. It's just it's company specific.
Right.
And what's cool about it too is it gives you a stack rank. And like it shows you where you rank in your company with likes and shares and comments and engagements. I'm very fortunate because I'm number 1 in the entire company of Microsoft. And there's a lot of attention that comes to that. But when you talk about things that matter and, sharing and the content and things like that, I am able to go into conversations with folks in my company that I would have been able to have otherwise if I hadn't built a social media platform years ago.
Yeah.
So that's why I have so much engagement, is frankly because of between LinkedIn and Twitter, I have the followers and I have the engagement. And it's an engine that I started building 10 years ago that is now paying dividends. It's amazing when you think about it. And that's what I love what you just said about scheduling that time and being very intentional about how you do it, because it's process and it's making sure that the big things are tackled.
Right.
And it's very difficult to maintain a process like that. I mean, let's call it what it is. Number one, eventually you're going to hit a brick wall and be like, my God, I can't do this anymore. And then second, there's another element of it that, like, whether it's boredom or fatigue or just needs of the business shift, you get pulled into different things that you have to do. And I think the challenge, and don't get me wrong, I won't profess to being very good even at managing my schedule sometime either, because I wind up on a lot of stuff that really, I'm like, look, I'm the dumbest guy in this room. There's no way they need me for this conversation. Why am I sitting here?
Because you're number one on the stack rank, Carson. Everybody wants you in the meeting.
Well, no, a customer though doesn't care if you're a good seller or you're notorious in your own circles. They don't care. They just want to be taken care of, and as well they should. And I think that's where, you sit in these meetings and I'm like, my gosh, like I'm like the least important person. There's so much more I could be doing here. So I think sometimes we have to challenge ourselves to be able to say, hey, I need to bow out of this because you don't need me, and let me know where I can support and help. Yeah. And I've tried to get better at that, but that helps you with your scheduling when you're trying to account for all your minutes, because time is the most important currency.
Well, and it's also the one resource that, whether you're Warren Buffett or you're the janitor, we all have an equal amount of that resource. We all have the same amount of time, So
true.
So let's talk about your books. The premise of the podcast is people that are entrepreneurial in spirit, that are hustlers, that are salespeople, that are marketers. So what I love is that you are self-published. So you took it, you ran with it. So you made it, you edited it, and now you're the sales engine of it as well. And so talk about what all that entails and what the fruits of the labor were through the whole thing.
No, it's a good comparison and contrast. My first book, I got published the old-fashioned way.
No shit.
Birth of a Salesman. Yeah, I reached out to 968 agents and publishers. I had only 15 that would give me the time of day and read it. 6 offered to publish it, and I picked the one with the best distribution. Yeah. And it was very interesting. But I would say, I've sold more since I've self-published than I ever sold with my first book being published the old-fashioned way. It's crazy. So that process, I wanted to get that done just so I could say I did it.
Yeah.
But I've since self-published, and that process, it's relatively simple to write something and self-publish it. The process is there, but statistically they say 99% of books sell less than 100 copies. And the reason why is because you sell them to your friends, your family, and then you're done. Right. You never sell another one. You sit with us. The joke is you sit with a stack of books that are right behind you that are like, hey, you can hand them out at parties. Right. But the thing is, if you have an engine, like you said, to be able to promote it, which is a lot of times having conversations or making posts, thought-provocative posts and blogs, and even sometimes just sending a note to somebody to say, hey, I wrote this book and I'd love it if you read it, or running a promotion or whatever that might look like. I've learned a ton over the years as far as, I didn't write the book to retire. That would have been nice, but I didn't write it to retire. I wrote it because I thought I had something worthwhile to say. And I wanted to, if I could influence or help one person, that's fulfilling. And I think with that philosophy, it was, I've had more success with those things on the Kindle version for like 99 cents than anything else. And it's cool to know that, thousands of people have downloaded one of my books. Like that's pretty cool. And, I'm sure the royalty checks are not very big, but who cares about that? It's because of stuff like that. And again, I want to round all this up by saying that if I hadn't written that one book 10 years ago, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Right.
I wouldn't have gotten that job at Edge. I would never. And because of that one job, I got recruited by T-Mobile and then by Microsoft. So I can draw a very clear trajectory that goes back to the book. And that's why I tell sellers all the time, or anybody that's, there's a lot of folks, unfortunately, that are currently laid off and looking for work, and find your differentiating factor, because otherwise you're up against 1,000 other people that are touting the exact same credentials. What's your differentiating factor? 10 years ago, mine was that I had written a book. That's it. And over the years, I've tried to continue to add different differentiating factors that add value. And there are still days where I feel like, my gosh, like I still have so much more I want to try to do, or where I feel like a failure, or where I lose a deal and I feel like garbage. We all go through that. And so I think it's important to say, it's a body of work, and it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
But I think as far as the engine itself, the creation part is challenging because you got to make the time to do it. And then you get it done. But that's the nice thing is once you're finished with it, every day I'm like, man, I'm so glad I don't have to write on that thing anymore.
So when you do a 99-cent Kindle, what is Amazon's rake on that? I'm guessing it's probably 30 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, it depends. You can choose. It's a sliding scale. You can choose which program you want.
Yeah.
And, I just elect to take the least of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically it. And then there's a paperback version too, and some people still prefer the paperback. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
But I think it's so cool that I have a Kindle version on my phone, and I like to read books on my phone, just because I think a lot of times we have this predisposition to just when we're not doing anything, or when there's an awkward pause in conversation, we just look at our phone, pick up our phone.
100%.
So I've trained myself to go into my Kindle to read a book rather than to just mindlessly scroll. And that's a work in progress too, because believe me, I still mindlessly scroll. But no, it's cool that Kindle has grown in prominence like it has.
It's funny you say that, because as COVID-19 and quarantine happened, and it's terrible for all those affected, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise for a lot of people, because me, for example, I was on a plane every week, and they clipped my wings back mid-March, and I'm not going to be on a plane again anytime soon, and it freed up a ton of time for me to do this podcast, for me to get better at, family time. But now that I've done this, my mindset is, okay, now when life goes back to normal, these are all things that I was wasting so much time. There's no reason I couldn't be, sitting at the airport writing a blog, or sitting at the airport scheduling out posts, or whatever. And it's funny because guys like you, guys like me, we can't turn it off. But I love what you said, where you said, I'm not doing this for a retirement check. I'm doing this because someone might read this, someone might hear me, and I'm the exact same way. We were just talking about with Greg Rankin in the last episode of, if one person listens to this podcast or watches this YouTube channel and says, holy shit, I hadn't thought of that, I'm going to do that, and it makes them better, I'm good.
That's it.
If I get a check out of it, even better. But that's not the end goal at all.
I love that you said that. There's such a humanitarian piece to it. And I think that's what I didn't understand when I was younger. I was in my 20s and I got promoted very quickly through the ranks. And, you get this, oh man, I'm making stuff happen. And I had no clue. And I look back and sometimes I want to kick myself, but it's very fortunate because, through your career and through your life, you have a lot of rises and falls, and you can certainly prepare for some of that to a degree, but it's all about who you are and what really your mission statement, your personal mission statement is. And frankly, that's what I've really tried to focus on over the last several years is, how can I not only be a better person, better dad, better husband, but how can I really just help people and just add value, and maybe even just like point somebody in the right direction because of some of the mistakes that I already made, so they don't have to. There's so many different motivating factors, and I couldn't agree more. I think we've been gifted with time. There's clearly, and don't get me wrong. I mean, there's days where I look back and I'm like, I didn't do anything today. I totally wasted my day with meaningless stuff and scrolling and whatever. But then other days you wake up and you have an idea and it's like, just put it out there. I think there's a lot of people that I applaud you for making the podcast itself. It's something I had thought about doing before, and I'm like, nah, I don't have the time for that. And I don't know if I want to put forth the effort. And so on the flip side of what you were saying to me before, I say to you, because I think it's awesome that you would put something like that together. And I agree with you, because if you find a message that resonates with somebody, you did your job. And that's where I think at the end of all this, it's relationships matter more now, and connection matters more now than it ever has before, because there's a lot of people that feel isolated. People are adapting to a new way of life. So, I think the message is timely. There's a lot of people that are afraid to put themselves out there. And I say, you know what, just what's the worst thing that happens?
Right.
I mean, seriously, I've had negative reviews, negative reactions, but I've had a lot of positive that's come out of it. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's just like life.
I was just having this conversation. Somebody I work with was like, man, I watched one of your podcasts and it's great. And I wish that I had, the cojones to do this. And I was like, I didn't. I've had the podcast equipment since November. It was April before anything even went out. And the first, 2-3 episodes were awful. So it's a learning process through and through. But yeah, it's one of those, just take the plunge, take the first step. I mean, so it's funny because in our careers, the path has been so similar, where we both stepped in a bunch of bear traps and learned, okay, I'm not going to go that way anymore. Actually, Kevin Hart just did an interview on Joe Rogan, and he's doing this initiative with JP Morgan Chase to teach inner city kids financials and how to be smart with their money. And he was talking about, JP Morgan Chase wanted to send a bunch of bankers to go talk to these kids. And he goes, no. He goes, send me. He goes, because I can look those kids in the eye and go, I came from where you were. I went through door number 1. Door number 1 sucked. I went through door number 2. Door number 2 sucked. I'm here to tell you, skip door 1, skip door 2, go to door 3, and you don't have to feel all the pain points and all the trials and tribulations that I did, And it's funny. I've always said I'm one of those guys that loves to learn the hard way so that nobody else has to, right?
Well said. We go through so many different experiences, and I'm the type of person, I like to learn by doing.
Same.
And so, we have a lot of experiences that teach us. And frankly, I've learned more from the losses than from the wins. A win doesn't teach you anything. It just makes you feel good.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of learning in maybe losses or mistakes before you get to some of your wins, which makes them all the sweeter.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, man, it's kind of like, you were The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. You watch that. And of course, I knew a lot of those stories, but what amazed me was that there was so much new that I didn't even know about.
Right.
But how he reacted and responded to losing, to new experiences, how he became a better teammate. I grew up in kind of a one-call close environment, and I was a very selfish seller because all that mattered was me. It was a one-call. You had to be a one-call closer. It didn't matter who else was on my team. But over the last several years, I've worked as very much part of a team, and also not being even close to the smartest person in the room. And you have to be humbled sometimes to really understand, number one, your place. When I came into Microsoft, I was very content with, I thought of myself almost like Jordan when he was on the Wizards. Like, I'm a sixth man. I'm past my prime. I just want to be here, contribute in some small way. And I was very lucky. I had a lot of success here, and I met a lot of amazing people. And I think that's sometimes the mentality that we have to take, is really understand your place. It's not about know your place. It's about understand your place, and also be very accepting of all of the guidance and the feedback, because very rarely is anybody else going to say exactly what you think or feel.
Right.
And so being accepting of other views and being accepting of, other ways of doing things, and then being part of a team that really works cohesively. Those have been some of the best lessons of my life.
Absolutely. shit, I couldn't have said it better myself. And you threw an MJ reference in there. Come on.
It's the best.
So
the GOAT.
I know that you've got an engagement coming up here in a few minutes. And I want to be conscious of that.
I've got like 20.
All right.
115 is when I got a jet.
Perfect. So here, as I'm looking through your LinkedIn, the bullet point so first off, I am a spiteful, jealous person, and the fact that you got interviewed by Gittimer just pisses me off in like drips envy. But the list of places where you've been featured and interviewed is just astounding. So tell us about how you marketed yourself to get into all of those features, all of those interviews. What did that look like? Surely it wasn't a bunch of, fangirl Eric Heady's LinkedIn messaging you going, please come on my podcast. I think you're great. What did that look like?
Yeah. And what's funny is when all that started, all I did was message people.
No shit.
I mean, I reached out to Gittimer. I reached out to Jeb Blunt. And I basically just said, hey, I wrote this book. I spent a lot of time writing about sales. I'd be honored to spend some time talking to you. And they reached out and we had a conversation. And then that's how it turned into what it did. I don't do that anymore. Now people proactively reach out to me because I've had enough content.
Right.
So it took me interviewing with Gittimer to get to Heady.
Right.
But it can be done. It can be done. But in all seriousness, I reached out to people to ultimately create the demand and create the content. And because of the dialogue that came out of that, I mean, it was a domino effect.
Yeah.
Once you're interviewed by a few of those people, then it's just like selling. It's just like, frankly, looking for a job.
Yeah.
It's about relationships. And once you have a relationship with some of these folks, I'm friends with some of them on my Facebook. It's crazy.
That's
and
awesome.
What's wild though is you reach out to these people and you have a conversation. The content is created, it's shared, and then people start to see it and it pops up. What amazed me the first time was when I would go to events like here in St. Louis and people would recognize me from stuff like that. I mean, I consider myself like an F or even a Z-list celebrity. I'm a nobody. But
right.
I heard you on such and such a podcast. That was awesome. Like, it blew my mind the first time that happened. But I think if anybody takes anything away from this conversation, is that anybody can do what I've done.
Right.
I haven't done anything that's revolutionary. I wrote a book. And yeah, I sent it out to a lot of people to try to get it published. And then I self-published my own stuff since then. I write articles and I post them out. Some get no views,
right.
no activity,
right.
and others do. Others blow up. It's just, you never know what's going to be the magical combination. But some days the planets align for you. And I've just thrown enough stuff out there that somebody's paid attention to some of it. And
right.
that's all it is. And I managed to get a conversation with some of these sales luminaries. It's crazy. And but now, because I've done enough of those, people reach out to me and ask me to interview me, which is awesome. So
that's amazing.
It's a build. You're always building your brand. And I taught myself how to do that 10 years ago when I lost my job at AT&T.
Yeah.
I taught myself because I thought that given my experience that I could walk in anywhere I wanted and get paid comparably, get a comparable director level job. I was out of my mind, but I thought that was the case. And so I started reading these articles and they were like, back then it was like building your brand was something new. LinkedIn was relatively new, but I trained myself how to use that. I made a Twitter, even though I didn't even know how to use it. I still don't. But I created these platforms and then just started building content, building relationships, and over a 10-year span, they've amounted to something. It's crazy. And I mean, but anybody can do it.
Yeah. So funny story, in September of 18, we were going through a leadership org change at Brinks, and current boss says, hey, 6 of you, I don't really have much for you to work on. Jeffrey Gittimer's in town doing a seminar, so I bought you all tickets. Go check it out. And so I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. Everybody else is like, I was like, okay, fuck you guys. You're not salespeople. So I'm there. I'm fangirl in the front row. I've got my iPad out. I'm taking notes. And his whole thing, the whole seminar was about branding yourself. And he goes, pull out your phone, Google yourself right now. are you the first thing that shows up? And I pull myself out, and I wasn't. Now, there's only one Eric Heady in the world, in the whole fucking world. And my relative, who was currently going through some legal issues in Michigan, was outranking me just because of the last name. And I was like, holy shit. A, didn't know that about him. B, I got to fix this. And so he talks about it. He goes, if you can't invest $12 a year in yourself to get your own URL, and you can't invest $20 a month in yourself to get your own website that takes literally zero management once you set it up, he goes, then you don't want to succeed. You're talking about sub $100 a year. And so I'm sitting in the seminar on Google domains, buying ericheady.com, which was available for nothing. And, that night I go on Squarespace and I'm setting up ericheady.com, and it's just been a snowball effect ever since I saw Gittimer talk. And so it's funny. I sent him a LinkedIn message about a year ago, just saying, hey man, thank you so much. I wish I had paid my own money to come see you because it was worth that much and more. And he replied, he's like, dude, I'm so happy to hear it. I love, that my words are helping. And I was like, oh, holy shit, he responded. I was like, fangirl.
Yes.
But it's the dumbest, simplest things that snowball into something bigger. It's the butterfly effect, if you will, Yeah.
It's so well said. I mean, if you want something to happen badly enough, I think there's ways to will it into existence, and to just think about different ways of attacking it. I think a lot of people think of one way to get to an outcome, and they try that way. It doesn't go the way they saw, and then they stop. It's like, I look at about 20 different ways of making the outcome happen, and I chase all 20 at the same freaking time. And eventually I'll get there. And I'll tell you, it's been really challenging. I mean, there's been a lot of setbacks over the years. A lot of times where, even I sit and I'm like, my gosh, like, can I really keep doing X, Y, or Z? Can I really? But it's so, when you can look back and like, there's a lot of really rewarding wins and ways that you felt at those given points of time. It's so worth it. But at the same time, you take back all of the, just different things that you, different experiences, times that you got, kicked in the teeth. That's where, really, honestly, that's where I've learned the most is like, I don't want to feel that way again. I don't want to screw up that way again. Or like, if I lost a deal that was super complex, you better believe that every single area that I missed that last time out, I'll be super proactive about it the next time. And my best years or best deals have all been because of learnings that I had from screwing up before.
Yeah. Well said. I can literally point to everything that somebody would say, Eric is so good at this. I can point to, it's because I fucked up doing that.
Yeah. Yep. So well said. Yeah. So well said. I love that you said that. Because it's so true. Like, people will tell me all the time, like, man, I'm so glad you thought of that. Well, it's because it bit me in the ass 5 years ago, but it won't again.
Yeah. There's a strong example I'm thinking of that we could both relate to. Yeah, very true. But what's funny is, you look back at stuff like that, and it's kind of like glamorizing a lukewarm or bad relationship. You look back and you still think about like the good times. Like, when I look back on my career, all I think about is the people, and like just even fun little goofy things that that we did, like hanging out in Minnesota and going to like the Woody's
the
Wieners
State Fair and stuff like that. I remember fun stuff like that, and it's all part of the journey. And I think that's the key, is not to let any of the mistakes like convince you that you can't do better. Yeah. Because if we did, let's face it. We're like poster children for like, well, God, I'd be crippled to get out of bed in the morning if I let all my mistakes hamper me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so I look at the company that will go unnamed that we both worked for. And I literally upped and moved from Southern Illinois to Texas for this job. And I could be mad that it didn't pan out and that it was, a total shit show, but it introduced me to new people. if I hadn't moved to Texas, I wouldn't have my wife. I wouldn't have my kid. I wouldn't have the job I had today. I probably wouldn't be as salty and skeptical of a business person as I am today. And all of that was because of a bad decision to go join that company. And so I can't be pissed about it. Like it truly formed me as who I am as a professional, even though it sucked for a year and a half.
Yeah, man. I would say that it definitely gives you a different perspective, and perspective is power. It definitely, like, I look back at even the most negative experiences that I've had, bosses that I could not get along with, that still taught me something really good about how to better manage my day, or a terrible career move I made a few years back when I left something to go to something else. And even though that was a bad experience, there was still a very good anecdote that manager gave me that I still use to this day. It's all part of the journey. And, like, think about it. It's like watching a movie, there's lulls in the movie. There's, like, you're watching, like, no, don't do that. Don't go in that room. We all do it. And I think that's the key piece, is as long as you get to a satisfying conclusion, the cool thing is it never really ends. It just kind of starts over again. And, we navigate through new waters. So I couldn't agree more. I look back at my career and I'm really happy with the way that certain things have happened, even though in those moments, sometimes I was like, this is horrible.
So what does the next 10 years have for Carson Heady? What's on your horizon that you say, God, I gotta fucking do this?
You know what? It's funny. I don't think about things like that anymore.
No shit.
I used to. I used to think like that, and I don't anymore. I started, I would say, a few years back, just taking every day as it came. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's definitely, I want to get to a position in life and in church and in, my career where I can just add as much value as possible. If it's influencing new sellers, new leaders in a positive way. I just want to do something fulfilling. And frankly, we live in a cool age where, frankly, God knows what that's going to look like 5-10 years down the road. So
that's true.
I don't know that I would even want to put the limitation on myself to say what's the next 10 years hold, because I have no idea. I look back and I'm proud of the last 10 years. And if I looked forward 10 years ago, there's no way I would have predicted it. So I take every day as it comes. I'm grateful for every day I got. And, like 10 years ago, I was a single dad, and now I've got a wife and a third kid on the way. And so it's
Mazel.
Yeah. So it's like, I have no idea. I want to be a good husband, good dad, good employee, good friend. That's all.
Goddamn. You've blown my mind like 3 different ways to Sunday on this 1 hour interview.
We both, what I love about this though is, we've changed a ton over the last decade, both of us. And that type of change in somebody, I think, is the real story of this. That's inspirational, because I think no matter who watches this, give thought to kind of where you've been, where you are, and where you want to be, to know that freaking anything is possible.
Oh my God.
And, like when I lost my job multiple times in the last 10 years, I've lost jobs multiple times, you hit this point where you're just like, my gosh, how much more can I take? How much more can I do? But there is things will always continue to get better. And all you can do is just take every day as it comes, put one foot in front of the other, and keep your core principles at heart. And, we make mistakes, and, we do stupid things and we say stupid things, but I think at the end of the day, stay focused on connections and people and relationships, and you can do anything. You can do anything you want.
4th time, mind blown. So Carson, with the few minutes we have left, anything you want to plug?
Not really. So I love to connect with people. Hit me up on LinkedIn, on Twitter. I love to have conversations. And I feel like I can learn so much from just new connections. So, if you got a question, you got a comment about sales, about leadership, about business, about life, anything, I'd love to hear from people on LinkedIn. I mean, yes, I've got books. They're available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Would love to get people's feedback on that too. I write a lot, but I'm always learning. I consider myself a student of sales and of leadership. And so, the only thing I'd really want to plug is let's connect, let's get connected. And I'd love to learn from other people's experience.
Perfect. So in the episode notes, I will make sure to link your LinkedIn, your Twitter. I'll link your Amazon link for your books. Ladies and gentlemen, Carson, Heady, thank you so much. This is absolutely phenomenal. Shame on me for not staying more in touch over the last 8 years. But
same here.
Thank you so much for making the time. This has been absolutely phenomenal. And for everyone listening, thank you for making it all the way to the end. My name is Eric Heady. That's Carson Heady. This is Everyday Hustle. And I promise the next one won't suck. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. If you like what you saw, it would mean the world to me if you go down here at the bottom and you click subscribe, you give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and in the other corner is another video coming right up, and I promise it won't suck.